Anyone into DCS, we've all been here, haven't we? That endless, long, slow, and fairly pointless attempt to approach an air-to-air refueler you're never going to be able to make contact with. You know, I've been doing DCS for years. I mean, years. And I have never been able to manage air-to-air refueling before. I've done flight sims before DCS, going all the way back to Eurofighter 2000 when that was the big thing, and Falcon 3.0. And I managed to do air-to-air refueling on those, and that was in the days when the hardware we had, the HOTUS hardware, for example, the throttles and joysticks, were not nearly as good as they are now. Back in those days, all I was working with was something like a Cytec X52, and before then, one of the early Microsoft joysticks that was a really good thing at its time. In those days, it was pretty good. Now, I've never gone through the trouble of comparing and contrasting the flight dynamics of one flight simulator versus another. But I have read posts from others on flight sim forums that have stated that air-to-air refueling in DCS is harder than they are used to from other combat-related flight sims. Maybe DCS reflects it more accurately, maybe not. I know I did read one post from an actual fighter pilot who also said that air-to-air refueling in DCS is harder than reality. I did in fact read a post once from a chopper pilot who said that flying the Huey was harder in DCS than it is in reality too, so maybe there's something to that. And yet, I don't want to just write off my own struggles with this aspect of the flight simulator as a problem with DCS. For all I know, this could indeed be an issue with my own skill, or it could be an issue with that flight simulators have become much more accurate over time. I mean, look at DCS, it's incredible. And maybe it's just more demanding. So up until recently, I've been using the Thrustmaster Warthog HOTUS the last couple years to play DCS, as well as for the Microsoft Flight Simulator and space sims such as Star Citizen and Elite Dangerous. And it's a good HOTUS. I mean, it works great with Star Citizen and Elite Dangerous, but aerial flight sims, they're more demanding, they require more precision, and maybe the Warthog HOTUS just doesn't cut it. I'd love to know thoughts from you out there that have been using the Warthog even longer than I have. I've only had mine a total of a couple of years, but if you have been using it even longer to do DCS, do you find that you're able to succeed in air-to-air refueling on a regular basis? And if so, what's your secret? I've put a lot of thought into it, and I've come to realize that my personal struggle with air-to-air refueling using the Warthog HOTUS, it's not the throttle. The throttle's awesome. It's the stick. It's that the Warthog base has an incredibly strong center detente. I mean, when you're flying close to an airplane like this and you're measuring movements in inches, you need to make smooth movements of the stick in terms of millimeters, maybe fractions of millimeters. And that incredibly strong center detente, it fights that. It works against you here. You can see how I'm moving a bit too much left and right or up and down as I try to get closer to that basket. And that has to do with I'm overcompensating on the center detente. By the time I push through it, I end up rolling or pitching a little too much. And that has to do very much with trying to push through that hard center detente. I do like that the Warthog stick holds a nice, smooth, and reliable center position when I let it go. That's very useful, particularly in space sims. But in flight sims, where the tiniest movements of the stick from the center position matter so much, especially with maneuvers like this, and to a lesser degree with some precision-demanding movements such as formation flying, and to a lesser degree still, but still important, such as carrier landing, I just have to fight that Warthog stick. And eventually this happens. I think we've all been there if we're honest with ourselves. We just have enough and we blow that air-to-air refueler to hell. I guess it just makes you feel better after struggling with it for an hour. I've decided, as I go forward with creating the Cerulean Skies channel, that it's time to up my game. I've heard so many wonderful things about the Virpil sticks and the VKB sticks, and even though Windwing is a very new player, I'm hearing some good reports about their sticks as well, and a lot of people complain about not the Not the grip for the Warthog stick, but rather the base. That center detente is just, it's hard to work for delicate maneuvers. It fights you. So I've decided I'm going to bite the bullet and went ahead and ordered a VKB stick after looking very carefully and doing a mountain of research at the competition. It just seemed to be the most versatile and the most reliable, and all the users absolutely adore VKB's Gunfighter Mark III base. So, and it's versatile. Later on, if I want to, I can add an extension to it, which should go even further to improving accuracy. It was in stock, so it should be here in a week or two, and when that gets here, we're going to take a look at this again and see if we can figure out the right way to go about making refueling work so we don't end up doing this, because I imagine in the end a lot of us have gotten frustrated enough that we just back off and blow that freaking air-to-air refueling tanker out of the sky, and I felt so bad I slammed into the water too. So keep an eye on the Cerulean Skies channel where, among other DCS related things, we're going to learn how to do air-to-air refueling, and by God, one way or another, we're going to make it work.